Coach, how good is it when you have a younger team, especially a younger defensive team, to have a goaltender like Mikkel Burden who can just be an absolute workhorse for you? I think every game he's played so far, he's faced at least 30 plus shots, in two of those games, 40. So what does that do for you as a coach, having, even though he's a relatively young player, an experienced goaltender in Mikkel Burden?
Well, it makes a huge difference. We know he's going to make that first stop. We need to take care of the rebounds. That was a different style of game tonight than what we've seen against Toronto. A lot of people at the net, and so he was quite busy at finding pucks. And we, our defensemen and our first forward back they were pretty busy as well, trying to find those loose pucks and those rebounds or boxing out. But having a guy like Burden that is quite agile, and he's really good at reading the play and finding loose pucks. So I think for our team, it gives a lot of confidence. That's what it does. And even when there's dumb pins in our zone and he can play that puck, it gives our D a little bit more time and more options to get that puck out. So in so many ways, he's been really good. And against Toronto, it was more first attempt and not necessarily a lot of rebounds. Against Laval, it was a little bit different. Looked more like an NHL game tonight, I thought. So it was a good test for our young core of defensemen and Birdie as well.
You know, your game-winning goal comes off the stick of Ville Heinola, set up by Cole Perfetti. I mean, as much as you get a benefit as a coach having such high-end players, what kind of benefit are these guys going to be receiving getting into situations where they realistically, well, with Heinola, wouldn't be seeing those opportunities with the Jets, but with Moose are obviously getting that chance?
Yeah, you can practice. You can practice quite a bit, and you can watch video as much as you want. But playing those games, that's how you develop, and that's why we're playing those games, because that's how they're going to grow. Same thing with Sandberg and those first-year young players playing those games and creating offense and playing against a heavy forechecking team and way heavier than us. But finding ways to stay in the fight and then competing for those guys, it's big time mileage, and that's how we develop our guys, and that's what we wanted. That's what we wanted. That kind of adversity we wanted to see, and to be able to produce like this, it's pretty good.
We'll go next to Jacob Stoller. Go ahead, Jacob.
Pascal, would you say that Ville and Cole were due for a sequence like that? And if so, what were they each doing right leading up to this game and including this game that, kind of had them knocking on the door for an opportunity?
Well, you know what? We're talking about an 18-year-old and a 19-year-old player. If you look at their age, they would be playing in junior. Ville is different because he's European, and he's played pro before, but they're still very young, and they've been part of the offense since the first game. They've been able to create even in tight, and when there's a battle, they've been able to create some offense. But to be able to produce at key times, that's a skill as well. But for them, it's gives them a lot of mileage.
What did you think of Dylan Sandberg's game today, Pascal?
Well, you know what? It was a different style, like I said, and it was a little bit of an adjustment for him. But he stayed physical. He stayed strong physically. And I mean, just before his fight, that was a solid legal hit. And I told him, you don't have to fight. That was a legal, solid hit. You don't need to do those things, but he decided to do it. But for him, again, just like Ville and Cole and then those first-year player, Chisholm and all of them, it's mileage. And that's exactly why we're playing. And to face a team that is heavy and playing hard on the forecheck like Laval and then driving the net, that's exactly what we need. And I think it's going to speed up their development.
We'll circle back to Dave Minuk. Go ahead, Dave.
Coach, just from not necessarily about the game specifically, but this was your first road game in over almost a year. What was it like being back on the road with the team and playing a game?
Well, everything's so different, right? So we get to the plane and we travel, we fly here to Montreal, get on the bus, and right to your room, and you can't really you can't go for a team dinner or anything like that. It's just in your room. But it was good to be together on the plane. But we're trying to be very careful about social distancing and all those things that we need to do. So it is a road trip, but it's not like what we're used to. It's nice to be on the road and just be together, but there's nothing we can do as a team. There's no team building activities. There's no team dinner. There's nothing like that. So it's a little bit different, but I think it's always good. The guys can spend a little bit more time, I guess, at the rink. They don't have to go home right away. But it's nothing like regular times.
And last one for me, one, you can develop prospects if you lose games, but it's always better when you're winning. From a coaching perspective, you always talk about, you're here to develop, but you also want to win because that's just the nature of your job. So when your team is winning, when you guys have won, 3 in a row, what does that do? Does that have a benefit? I mean, it sounds like an obvious question, but I'm going to ask it anyways. Is there a big benefit? Do you see that with the players when they're coming off a victory, like tonight?
Well, yes, there is for sure. But beyond that, I think the way we've played in the third period, we were winning. No matter what the score is, it was a hard second period. They were really heavy on the forecheck, and they won a lot of one-on-one puck battles because they're heavier and they're older. But we stayed in the fight, and the third period, I thought we stayed on top of them. We were challenging those guys and staying in the fight. Like we did in the third period. To me, that was a big win for the young players, for our young team, and to come on top of that and win the game, that's a big bonus for sure. But you know what, Dave, there's nothing like winning. Like, it doesn't matter if we're developing here and everything, and that's the focus, and that's what we're not going to do anything else but play our young players in hard situations. But at the end of the day, when you win, it's a win, and it's nothing feels like it.
Thank you.
All right.
We'll finish off with Jacob Stoller. Go ahead, Jacob.
Pascal, you mentioned how you told Dylan Sandberg he didn't need to fight there. Was that something you want to make clear, given how important he is to your roster?
No, the point was, if you're going to play physical, those things will happen again and again. And every time it happens, you don't need to fight because somebody's challenging you. If you feel you need to do it to establish yourself and send a message, it's your call. But I made sure he knew that, you know what, we want you to play that physical, but we certainly don't expect from you to drop the gloves every time you do it.
You kind of talked about, and this is the last one for me here, but you talked about how it's a different year and there's not that sort of team camaraderie on the road and whatnot. Have you guys looked into doing some sort of team events or bonding or anything, poker or whatnot, via Zoom or something? And further to that, a secondary question, is it as important as usual to have that chemistry given how condensed the schedule is, or is it not as big of a factor?
No, we had a few Zoom meetings and we do with the players, but nothing related to poker. We don't like them gambling. But using the technology is something we're trying to do, but mainly because we can't really coach other than during practices in games. We have a 3-minute window before the game and in between periods to get in the room. So we're using team Zoom calls and stuff like that to really coach. And that's what we're trying to do. And I think the team chemistry, it takes time for that. When you're in the NHL and you have the same team year after year, the players know each other. That comes naturally. But we have so many new players on the team that it's going to take some time. but you can tell right away they're supporting. Our bench has been extremely good. That's how we're going to build our team chemistry, staying in the fight. Like the third period, to me, that's a great team building activity. They were all supporting each other. They were staying in the battle, and we finally won the game. But for those events, there's nothing stronger than fighting together, staying together, and winning together. That creates the best team chemistry.